When word of my miscarriage reached Ethan Voss, he flew back from Europe overnight. He stopped snapping at me all the time. Stopped bringing up Lila Grant without a second thought. He even started checking in with me every day, something he'd hated doing more than anything before. But I was doing everything I could to avoid him. That evening, I made up an excuse about working late and went with a friend to the restaurant we'd been dying to try. Over dinner, my friend noticed me glancing over at the little girl at the next table more than once, and asked offhandedly, "You don't plan on having another baby?" I shook my head. Forget it. After all, Ethan and we might get divorced tomorrow, for all I know. I turned my head and saw Ethan standing in the doorway, his face thunderous, his jaw was tight, his expression blank as he looked at me. "It's raining. I came to take you home." I got up awkwardly, grabbed my bag, and headed for the door. He stayed stone-faced the whole ride home. Halfway there, he said suddenly, "I never wanted to divorce you." What I said at the restaurant that night, I was just angry. It had snowed heavily on New Year's Eve. Ethan had a last-minute business trip, and I'd begged and begged him to stay for dinner before he left. He'd finally caved. He'd made a reservation, and I'd left work early to get there. But right outside the restaurant, I ran into Ethan and Lila, just getting out of a car. I froze. Ethan walked a few steps inside, then turned when he saw I wasn't following. "Why aren't you coming in?" I stared straight at Lila over his shoulder. "Why is she here?" Lila stiffened at the question. Ethan frowned. "Lila and I are flying out together after this. It's easier to eat together." I pressed my lips together. "I don't think it's easier. Tell her to go eat somewhere else." Ethan's face cooled. "Clara, don't make a scene. It's just one dinner." It was always just. The play I'd been dying to see for months scored tickets, and when we sat down, Layla was right there on his other side. He said she'd wanted to see it too, so he'd grabbed an extra ticket. I'd asked him then, "Why does she have to sit with us? Can't she sit somewhere else?" "A friend gave me the tickets. I didn't think about it." He'd said, "Clara, it's just one play." The bespoke Tiffany pendant I'd wanted so badly had it custom made for my birthday. Then I'd seen the exact same one around Lila's neck. I'd pointed at it and demanded to know why. Ethan had said, "You have good taste." I had an extra one made. Lila had stared at her shoes, smiled awkwardly, and said to me, "If you don't like us having the same one, I won't wear it." She'd reached up to take it off. Ethan had stopped her. "It's just a necklace. Clara's not that petty." I'd gone cold after that. I never wore that necklace again. 2 months before that, we'd planned a camping trip to watch the meteor shower. I opened the passenger door, and there was Lila, sitting right there. For a second, I could barely breathe. I turned to Ethan. "Why is she here?" Ethan looked confused by my anger, like I was being completely unreasonable. "Clara, it's just a meteor shower." We stood there at an impasse, his face getting colder and colder. Finally he said, "If you don't want to go, you can go home by yourself." In that moment, I finally understood what that name his friends had always spoken of it in hushed tones meant to him. 10 years of knowing each other, 5 years dating, 3 years apart, what all of that weighed on him. Like how he'd zoned out the second he saw her when she came back to the city. Like how he always listened so intently when Lila talked. A soft, faint smile tugging at his lips that he didn't even notice himself. My whole body was shaking, but I still stood my ground and said to him, "On New Year's Eve, I only want to spend it with you, just us. Tell her to leave, please." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said to me, "Clara, it's just New Year's. It's not that special. Don't be so dramatic. And honestly, I'm going to be spending the whole flight tonight with Lila anyway." I went completely still. I breathed out slowly, then asked, very quietly, "She likes inserting herself into our lives so much. Is she gonna sleep between us next time we're in bed too?" "Clara." Ethan snapped. Lila's face went deathly white. Ethan's jaw was tight, his voice ice cold. "When did you get so petty and vicious? I'm letting this go today, but if you pull something like this again, Clara, maybe we should just get divorced." With that, he took Lila's hand and got in the car. No New Year's Eve dinner, no glance back at me. The last thing he said to me was, "Eat if you want. If not, go home and cool off by yourself." I stood there frozen outside the restaurant for what felt like forever. The host came over to ask if I needed help, and I finally snapped out of it. No, thank you. I turned to leave. I didn't notice the icy, slippery sidewalk. I fell hard. A searing pain ripped through my lower abdomen. By the time the restaurant staff got me to the hospital, I was barely conscious. My emergency contact was Ethan Voss. They called him again and again. No answer. The last call went straight to voicemail. The nurse gave me a complicated look and asked if I had any other family. I lay there sweating through my clothes and slowly shook my head. The next afternoon, Ethan called. Did you call me yesterday? What was it about? I stared lazily at the clouds outside the window. Earlier that morning, I'd seen Lila's post on Instagram. She was in Europe. Said the scenery was the same. The people were the same. Like nothing had ever changed. I'd lost so much blood on that operating table. All that pettiness and hurt had bled right out of me. I looked away, tired. Nothing. Dialed the wrong number. I hung up. A few days later, the restaurant called to follow up and check on me. They reached Ethan's assistant, asking how I was doing. The assistant told Ethan what had happened. She said he went completely silent for a long time, like a statue frozen solid. After a minute or two, he said, his voice rough, "Book me a flight home. The next one available." That same night, he showed up at the door. He walked in fast, urgent, then froze the second he saw me. His mouth opened. "Clara. I'm so sorry, I had no idea." I only glanced at him, then looked away, smiling softly. "It's fine." But his face tightened. The Ethan in front of me had his jaw set in a hard, straight line. There was a faint furrow between his brows. He looked at me and repeated, "I never wanted to divorce you." I stared out the window and said nothing. He frowned. The rest of the drive home was silent. When we got inside, Ethan took off his coat. I froze for a split second. He followed my gaze to his shirt sleeve. A smudge of lipstick. He blinked. Surprised. That was an accident. I looked away quickly and turned to walk further into the house. He grabbed my arm. His grip was a little too tight. I really didn't notice this. I must have brushed up against someone. I paused, nodded, and pulled my arm free. "I believe you." His hand hung in the air for a second, then slowly curled into a fist. I went upstairs to wash up, then lay on the bed scrolling through my phone. A little while later, Ethan came in and sat down on the other side of the bed. He looked down at me. He reached out to touch the ends of my hair. I flinched away the second his fingers brushed me. His hand stopped. Awkward. I shifted, pretending nothing had happened. "It tickles." After a long beat, he hummed and pulled his hand back. A minute later, he said, "I'm in the city all week. No plans tonight." I kept scrolling my phone and nodded absent-mindedly. After Lila came back, I'd been so paranoid for a while, always asking where he was going, who he was with. He'd snapped at me once. Annoyed. If I really wanted something to happen with Lila, what good would it do even if you knew where I was every second of the day? I'd frozen right there, like someone had slapped me across the face. My cheeks burned. My mind went completely blank. After that, I never asked again. When I didn't respond, Ethan just sat there staring at me for a long time, until I looked up at him, raised an eyebrow, and gave him a "what's wrong" look. He dropped his heavy gaze and turned off the light. "Go to sleep." The room went dark, but I could feel his eyes on my back the whole time. I curled deeper under the covers and squeezed my eyes shut. The next morning, I packed my things to leave. Ethan was waiting by the door. "I have a meeting at your company today. Want to ride together?" Our two companies were working on a joint project. I grabbed my car keys. "No one at my company knows about us. It'd look weird if people saw us. Let's go separately." Ethan went quiet for a second. "Okay." During the meeting, I sat as far away from Ethan as I could. When the manager started making polite small talk, the office group chat blew up. "Oh my God. Mr. Voss is even hotter up close. I'm so jealous of his wife." Please. Jealous of his wife. Be jealous of his ex. She just got back and he made her his secretary. Word is she's living in one of his apartments. Total dream life. You can still find old photos of his ex on his Twitter. He never deleted them, even after they broke up. You see any photos of his wife on there? Wait, why didn't he marry the ex then? From what I heard, she broke up with him. Rumor has it a junior from his alma mater said when they split. He dropped everything and flew overseas to beg her to take him back. Got in a fight. 2. Someone got a photo of him standing on the street with flowers, looking totally broken. Dude looked tragic but so hot. Photo I saved it. Ugh, I'd thirst over that too. He was so skinny back then. Like he was wasting away. Then he got married less than a year later. Probably got his heart broken and settled for the first person who came along. But you never forget a love like that. Right. X comes back. Boom, personal assistant. Nuff said. Nuff said. I put my phone down and glanced over at Ethan, who was talking to the manager. I zoned out a little. So he'd had a love that big. That loud. Once, he'd gotten in fights, lost his cool, chased someone across the world. When Ethan and I fought, he was always so calm, calmly watching me get angry, calmly telling me to quiet down. Clara, this isn't solving anything. We'll talk when you've calmed down. Once, I'd been so furious I told him we should break up. He just blinked and said, okay, turned around and left. No texts, no calls, like he'd vanished, like it was really over. I cried every day, until a week later, in the middle of a torrential rainstorm. I called him. I couldn't even stop sobbing. Ethan, I take it back. I'm sorry. Over the phone, I heard him take a deep, shaky breath. An hour later, someone banged on my door. He was soaked through, rain dripping off him. Totally disheveled. He pulled me into a tight hug. Clara, don't ever say break up again. Don't say it again. That was the most out of control I'd ever seen him. Back then, I'd thought someone as calm as him, willing to do that for me. He must love me so much. Now, staring at the links in the group chat, reading about his history with Lila, I realized how little I'd known. When the meeting ended, he walked over to me. I tried to step around him, but he caught my elbow. I quickly held up my file to block us, flipped it open like I was reading, and glared at him. He smiled a little, leaned in like we were discussing work, and whispered in my ear, come home early tonight. Let's have dinner together. We'll see. I mumbled, staring at my shoes. His eyes went dark. Clara, ever since I got back from Europe, we haven't had a single meal together. You always say you're busy, either working late, or already having plans, avoiding every chance we might have to sit at the same table, to even be in the same room. He stared at me, stubborn, refusing to let go. I frowned and gave in. Quiet. Fine. I got it. Satisfied. He let go. We walked out together. Ethan's car was already waiting outside. When he saw us, the passenger door opened, and Lila got out. She smiled, nodded at our manager, smiled at Ethan, acted like I wasn't even there. I came to pick you up, Mr. Voss. Ethan frowned and immediately glanced over at me. Our manager, ever the people pleaser, chimed in. Well, no wonder you were in such a hurry to leave, Mr. Voss. Someone special's waiting. Then he turned to me, pointedly. Mr. Voss is visiting the project site at our branch office the day after tomorrow. Clara, make sure you take good care of Mr. Voss and Ms. Grant. Ethan started to say. Lila isn't. But I'd already nodded. It's all arranged. I've scheduled Mr. Voss and Ms. Grant's itineraries together. Ethan cut off mid-sentence. Clara. I cut him off. Mr. Voss, is there anything else you'd like me to take care of? Ethan stared at me, silent, until Lila called his name. Then he got in the car, face cold. I looked away and turned around. I dragged my feet for an hour before leaving work, took the long way home, 2 extra streets out of my way. By the time I got back, it was late. Ethan was probably sick of waiting and eaten dinner already. I pushed open the door and there was a bouquet of roses on the dining table, 2 candles set beside it. All the dishes were laid out, perfectly arranged, and Ethan was sitting there waiting. When he heard the door, he looked up. I stood in the entryway. Why didn't you eat first? He looked at me for a long moment before speaking. Clara, did you forget what today is? I froze, seeing my face. His mouth tightened a little. Today's the day we decided to get married. I blinked, dazed. That day, I'd gotten down on one knee with a stupid soda can tab and asked him to marry me. He said the proposal was supposed to be his job. After thinking about it, I'd said. Then every year on this day, You have to propose to me all over again. This was our second year. I went quiet. I remembered I'd deleted every reminder from my phone calendar while he was still in Europe. No alert on my phone. I hadn't thought about it at all. Ethan said, "It's fine if you forgot. I'll have the housekeeper heat up the food." He stood up to grab the wine decanter. I walked over and stopped him. "Don't bother." He froze, looked down at me. "Ethan. Don't bother." His knuckles whitened around the decanter. "What's wrong?" I looked up at him and said, very softly, "Ethan, let's get divorced." Ethan went completely still for a long time. He gripped the decanter tighter, then slowly let go, setting it down. What I said outside the restaurant that night, I was angry. I didn't mean it. Same line. Every time. But I meant it. I said, looking him dead in the eye, "Ethan, I'm serious. You once said we should never talk about breaking up lightly. We've been together this long, and except for that one time, I've never brought it up." I paused. "So this time, I'm dead serious." He looked stunned. "Why? Is this about Lila?" "Nothing ever happened between us. I swear. She's just a friend. If you still can't stand it, tell me what you want me to do." His voice dropped. "Don't joke about divorce." I was quiet for a second. "I'm not joking. I already hired a lawyer. Are you free tomorrow? I can have her come by your office." He took a deep, shaky breath. "I'm not free." "Then tell me when you are. I'll schedule it." Anger flared across his face. "Why are you doing this?" he said. "Is it Lila? Is it the baby?" I didn't want to talk about the baby. His eyes reddened. "I had no idea you were pregnant." His voice was tight. "If I'd known, I never would have left you out there in the snow. Never would have left you alone outside that restaurant. Clara. I'm so sorry. I regret it more than anything." Tears pricked at my eyes. I blinked them back and said, "If it wasn't for the baby, would you even be sorry right now?" He froze. "That's not fair." He reached for my wrist. I pulled away. "I don't want to spend the rest of my life comparing myself to someone else. I don't want to be scared all the time. I don't want to love someone who doesn't love me enough. I'm not that forgiving. I'm not a saint." He spoke fast, low, urgent. "But I do love you. I love you. I only love you. Lila and I are over. We've been over for years." I shook my head. "Your love is split. You love me, but you can't let go of her. What I want is all of someone, to be their first choice. Always." He opened his mouth to say more. I cut him off. "When are you free? Let's get our lawyers together." With that, I left the house. Before I went, I told Ethan I wouldn't be coming back until the divorce was final. Someone would come by in a few days to pick up my things. He didn't say anything. He didn't stop me. I owned another apartment in New York City, finished but barely lived in. I'd bought it as a backup for when I needed somewhere to go. Moving in now was easy. I handed off the project site visit to someone else. My coworker called me and said, "Mr. Voss only brought his assistant. No secretary." He kept asking where you were. I told him you'd transferred the project. He didn't look happy about it. "What do you think that's about?" I said, "Who knows? Good luck with everything." A week later, my lawyer called me. She said Ethan refused to talk to her. Said I had to be there. That he wanted to talk to me face to face. I had no choice. I went to his office. A week apart, and he looked thinner, but he still carried himself like he could handle anything back straight. Face calm. Like a wall with no cracks. I thought back to those photos of him chasing Lila overseas, begging her to come back. Maybe only Lila ever got to see him break. When I sat down, the first thing he said was, "I made Lila quit. She's not my secretary anymore." He paused. "Clara, stop being mad at me." I took a deep breath, tried to stay calm. "I'm telling you again, I want a divorce. I'm serious. If you won't talk about it, I'll file for divorce directly." His face darkened, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Stubborn as anything. I know I haven't been good to you. I know I messed up. If you don't want to see Lila ever again, I'll make sure she never shows up in front of you. I won't see her privately, either. If you want to know where I am every day, who I'm with, I'll tell you. All of it." He meant it. I knew he was telling the truth. But divorce isn't a negotiation. You don't just fix the terms and pretend nothing ever happened. I shook my head, tired, and stood up to leave. He shot up so fast he knocked his chair back a little, grabbed my arm. Clara, wait, let's talk about this. I looked back at him, cold. There's nothing left to talk about. If you won't discuss the divorce, I'll have my lawyer draw up the papers. If you won't sign them, I'll file. He gripped my wrist tighter, wouldn't let go. But I'm asking you to sign them, I said, my voice dropping. Ethan, I don't want this to get ugly. At that, all the color drained from his face. He let go. I turned and left. I'd just made it downstairs when I ran right into Lila. The second she saw me, her smile dropped. She stared at me, ice cold. I kept walking, like I hadn't seen her. She stepped sideways and blocked my path. Clara Bennett, didn't take you for the manipulative type. I stopped and turned to look at her. You made Ethan fire me, made him treat me like this. She took a step closer. How'd you do it? Huh? I frowned. I didn't do anything. If you're upset about it, go talk to him yourself. She laughed. Bitter. Don't play innocent with me. I always knew you weren't as sweet as you looked. The woman who stole Ethan from me. Please. My face went cold. You broke up with him. You left him. I never stole anything from anyone. Not then. Not now. She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off fast. You're the one who left like you didn't care. And now you're crawling back 'cause you regret it. We both know exactly what you're after. Save the act. Her face went white. She tried to snap back, but couldn't find the words. I looked her dead in the eye, my voice low and sharp. By the way, you had a boyfriend overseas, right? The guy who got you that job. She froze completely. He got married last year. The photos were nice. Were you there? She squeezed the hem of her coat so tight her knuckles showed. You investigated me, and if I did, I shot back. After I saw those photos of Ethan broken over her in the group chat, I dug around, found out why they'd really broken up. Back then, Voss Corp had been set up. He'd been investigated. His business on the brink of collapse. Everyone at the company was panicking. And right then, Lila got this amazing job offer overseas. She decided to leave. Broke up with him. I found out she'd dated someone else while she was abroad, the same guy who'd offered her the job. And that guy had gotten married last year. His bride was already pregnant. She stared daggers at me. CLA. RA. You. I what? I looked at her. Blank. I'm just curious. You left so clean back then. Why come back now? Did he dump you? Was life overseas not as great as you thought? Or did you just find out Ethan made his way back up and decided you wanted a piece of it? Clara, she screamed, raising her hand to slap me. But the slap never landed. A hand shot out from behind me and clamped down hard on her wrist. So hard she stumbled forward half a step. Ethan's voice came from right behind me, low and furious. Layla, what do you think you're doing? Lila's whole demeanor flipped in an instant. Her voice went high. Wounded. Ethan. She started it. She said all these horrible things. I know what Clara's like. Ethan cut her off. She wouldn't attack you for no reason. Lila looked like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. You trust her that much? You've known her for what? 2 minutes. You trust her more than me. I didn't have time for this. I tapped a few things on my phone. Calm. Collected. I paid good money for all this dirt. Seems a waste to keep it to myself. Let's all take a look. I created a group chat me, Ethan, Layla. Then I dumped everything in there. Screenshots. Links. The whole timeline. Message after message popped up on the screen. The timeline of her moving in with another guy right after breaking up with Ethan. Photos of that guy partying with Lila one night, then marrying his pregnant fiancée the next day. Lila went completely silent. Her hands were shaking. That's not. I left the group chat, stuck my phone back in my pocket and turned to walk away. Behind me, Layla was panicking, talking a mile a minute. Ethan, listen to me. None of that is real. She made it all up. Ethan told her to get out. I walked through the lobby, pushed open the door, and headed for the parking garage. I was almost to my car when I heard fast footsteps behind me. Ethan caught up. Right as I reached for the door handle, he slammed a hand against the car door, holding it shut. He was breathing hard. Clara. Don't go. I didn't ask her to come. Lila and I are over. We've been over. She's just a friend. I turned to look at him. Mia Cooper's your friend too. Would you have threatened to divorce me over her? Would you have left me alone outside a restaurant on New Year's Eve? Told me to go home and cool off. Because of her. He had nothing to say. I laughed. Bitter. Ethan, you're so stuck in the past. You say you're over her. But you can't bear to let her go completely. I don't believe you never knew she was with someone else right after you broke up. I don't believe you never guessed she cared more about what she could get than about you. You just didn't want to admit it. Something raw and shaky flickered in H's eyes. 10 years is a lot to carry. For you, and for this marriage. I reached up and pried his fingers off the door one by one. I got in the car, turned the key. In the rearview mirror, he stood there. Frozen. I didn't look again. I hit the gas and drove away. I scrolled through the office group chat later. There were already 100 messages I'd missed. Mr. Voss deleted all his tweets. Everything. Wiped clean. Not a trace of Lila left. Heard Lila can't even get into the Voss Corp building anymore. Security turns her away every time. She's tried. Like, 3 times. A flood of emojis followed. Men are so cold. When they love you, they'd hold the sky up for you. When they're done, they're the first one to knock it down on your head. A few messages later. Someone replied, please. She threw herself at a married man. She got what she deserved. I locked my phone. The screen went dark. I didn't read anymore. It was almost early spring. The weather was all over the place. Right before work ended, the wind picked up hard. It felt as cold as midwinter. My coworker joked that it might even snow overnight. I pulled my coat tighter and headed downstairs. When I got to the crosswalk, someone called out from behind me, Clara. Ethan draped his trench coat over my shoulders. I was in the area. His office was on the complete opposite side of the city from mine. I stopped him before he could fasten the coat for me. His voice was tight. I just wanted to bring you a COA. You always get sick this time of year. I don't need it. I cut him off cold, took the coat off, and handed it back. I can take care of myself. You don't have to. If you've got time to spare, sign the divorce papers already. He gripped the coat tight, was quiet for a second, then said, Clara, Layla and I. That's between the two of you. I cut him off fast, turned, and ran for the subway. The next night, I got home after dark. As I got closer, I saw someone standing by my door. Ethan was leaning against the wall, holding an insulated bag. When he saw me, he stood up straight. Brought you something to eat. Saw on your Instagram you were working late. Had the housekeeper make soup. Thought you'd want it. I stood a few feet away, didn't move. Back when I worked late all the time, I'd always ask the housekeeper to make hot soup first. Chicken noodle, or beef barley. It always warmed me right up. But I shook my head. No, thanks. If I want soup, I'll hire my own housekeeper. His fingers tightened around the bag handles. Aren't you busy? I asked. Heard your company's working on a new project. The whole tech floor's basically pulling all-nighters. Ethan had started out in engineering. Back when they launched a new project, he'd stay up all night with the rest of the team, working through it. He was quiet for a second, then said, Lo, I am, but I missed you. He took a step closer. I could see the exhaustion under his eyes. He'd been running on fumes for days. I sighed. My lawyer says you still won't sign the papers. Is it the property split? You're not happy with it. His face darkened. I don't want a divorce. I've changed. Lila's gone for good. We'll never talk again. He took another step forward, his eyes fixed on my face. Clara. I'm sorry. We can have another baby. Someday. I took a deep breath. We're never having another baby. He froze, even if nothing had happened that night on New Year's Eve. I never would have kept it. His face went ashen. Why? Because I already decided I was going to divorce you. I said it calm, unflinching. The baby was just the final push. If it hadn't been that, it would have been something else. You can't fix hurt just by saying you're sorry. You can't undo what's already been done. He stared at me. The red veins in his eyes seemed to darken. My lawyer's already filed the divorce petition. I said, final, even if you don't agree. I'm going to see this through. Why, Clara, won't you even give me one more chance? I didn't answer. I stepped around him and unlocked my door. A long time later, I heard his footsteps walk away. 2 days later, my lawyer came to see me. She looked frustrated, like she didn't know how to say what she had to. Mr. Voss. He still won't sign the papers, Anne. He fell down the stairs, fractured his leg. I blinked, surprised. He looked awful, totally distracted. She said, missed a step. He's in the hospital now. Right as she finished talking, my phone rang. It was Ethan's assistant, Ms. Bennett. Could you please come see him? Just for a minute. He's been in such a bad state these past few days. Barely sleeps. Just works all night. He hasn't been home since you moved out. The last time he went back, it was to get that soup. I sat quiet for a second, staring at the pen on my desk. My voice was flat. What does that have to do with me? There was a stunned silence on the other end, then a crash, like a glass falling on the floor. Then the assistant gasped. Sharp, Mr. Voss. I hung up. The sky outside went dark. The clouds hung low and heavy. That night, a storm hit. Rain hammered against the window, loud and relentless. Suddenly, there was a knock at my door. I got up to answer it. Ethan was standing there. He was in a hospital gown, the blue and white fabric soaked through, clinging to his skin. His leg was in a cast. He was leaning on crutches, propped against the doorframe. His face was so pale it was almost gray, like he might pass out any second. I stared, shocked. Are you insane? He didn't look away from me. Rain dripped off his hair, down his forehead. Then, with the hand not holding a crutch, he slowly reached inside his gown and pulled something out. Clara. His voice was so rough I could barely hear him. This is the ring you proposed with. I've kept it all this time. Slowly, carefully. He lowered himself down on his good knee. The cast thudded against the floor. He held the little soda can tab up to me. Clara. Give me one more chance. His voice was shaking. Please. The last word came out broken, almost a sob. Lightning flashed outside. For a split second, the room lit up, and I saw his face. I'd never seen him look like that. That face, always calm, always in control, like he could fix anything, was shattered. If this had been a year ago, I would have thrown my arms around him already. But now, I glanced out at the black, pouring rain. It had been raining just like this. That day, I'd knelt down in front of him with that stupid soda can tab, grinning like an idiot, and asked him to marry me. He'd stared at me for so long, then bent down and pulled me up. Pulled me into his arms, said yes, but you can't go back. I shook my head. No. He doubled over, like he'd been hit. I closed the door. He knelt there for a long time. On the other side of the door, the air felt thick and heavy, hanging over both of us. I closed my eyes. Sometime in the middle of the night, someone showed up. I heard his assistant's voice, low and urgent, begging him to come inside the car. But Ethan never said a word, never moved. After a long time, there was a heavy thud. Then the assistant's panicked whisper. The sounds outside faded fast, leaving nothing but quiet. The next morning, I saw it on the news. Someone had snapped a photo of Ethan at the hospital ER. He was on a gurney, face ashen, lips colorless, eyes closed. He looked so thin, so hollow, like there was nothing left of him. I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I sank down onto the floor beside the bed, forehead pressed to my knees. 5 days later, my lawyer called. Ethan had caved. He'd agreed to sign the divorce papers, but only if I came in person. I pushed open the door to his office. He was sitting behind his desk. He still looked terrible. He was trying to hide it, but he couldn't stop coughing. It was just the two of us. He looked up at me. After a long, long time, he said, his voice rough, I don't want this. He paused, then went on, defeated, but I know once you make up your mind, there's no changing it. Back when you decided to marry me, you didn't ask questions, didn't overthink it, just dragged me to the courthouse. He gave a sad, bitter little smile. You used to be so carefree, did whatever you wanted, laughed all the time, always smiling. He looked at me, his gaze tracing every line of my face. Slow and careful, but this past year, you've changed. You don't smile much anymore. You're never happy, like you're a different person. I guess that's on me. I'm sorry. If you're ready to let go, I shouldn't keep holding on. I should let you be free. Give us both a clean end. He flipped open the file and signed his name on the last page. I didn't say anything. I took the pen and signed my name right next to his. clean and quick. We scheduled a time to go to the county clerk's office to finalize everything. He stood up to walk me to the door, right at the threshold. He stopped. Clara. I turned around. He was leaning one hand against the doorframe. There was no light left in his eyes. Someday, if we run into each other again, is there any chance? I looked at him and shook my head. Ethan, you're always looking back. At Lila. At me. But I'm going forward. For the rest of my life. He froze. I turned and opened the door. The last thing I said was, Ethan, I hope you stop looking back. I hope you stop regretting. I stepped forward and kept walking. And I hope I never stop moving. The wind swept through the hallway. I didn't look back. I walked out of his office building. The spring light was bright and clear. The trees lining the STR. EET rustled, their leaves vivid and green. This spring would be a new beginning.